It all started on an ordinary Friday evening when I invited my friend Emily over for dinner. We had planned to catch up on life, share some laughs, and relax. What I didn't expect was how the evening would take an unexpected turn and leave me with memories I wouldn't soon forget. My stepson Alex had just returned from college, and I thought it would be nice to include him in our plans. He had always been polite and respectful, but something about him that night felt different, though I couldn't quite put my finger on it. As I prepared dinner in the kitchen, Emily arrived, dressed as effortlessly elegant as ever. She had a glow about her, and her laughter always filled the room with warmth. I loved having her around because she had this energy that made everything seem lighter. Alex entered the kitchen shortly after, offering to help me with the food. I glanced at him, noticing how much he had changed. He had grown into a man, taller and more confident. His eyes lingered on me for a moment longer than I was used to, but I dismissed it, assuming I was just imagining things. We all sat down at the dining table, the atmosphere casual and relaxed. The wine was flowing, and the conversation moved smoothly between various topics. Emily, as always, was engaging and had Alex's full attention. They exchanged jokes and flirtatious banter, which made me smile. I assumed it was harmless given the age difference, but as the night progressed, I began to notice subtle changes in Alex's demeanor. His glances at Emily became more intense, and I caught him staring at her when he thought no one was looking. I felt a strange tension start to build in the room, though I couldn't quite pinpoint why. As the conversation continued, Emily playfully placed her hand on Alex's arm, laughing at something he said. I felt a flicker of jealousy surge through me, but I quickly shook it off, reminding myself that it was innocent. Alex, however, seemed to be enjoying the attention a little too much. His eyes met mine across the table, and there was something in his gaze, something that sent a shiver down my spine. The next moment felt surreal. Alex reached out and brushed a strand of hair from my face, his touch lingering on my skin. It caught me off guard, and for a brief second, I saw a flash of something in his eyes that I hadn't seen before. I felt my breath catch, and I didn't know how to react. Emily hadn't noticed the small gesture, still caught up in the conversation. I could feel my heart racing, trying to keep my composure as I processed what had just happened. Dinner continued, but the air was thick with unspoken tension. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Every now and then, Alex would look at me, his gaze burning into mine, and I found myself questioning everything. Was I imagining things? Was this all just an innocent family dinner, or was there something more beneath the surface? Things took a more daring turn as dinner came to an end. As I stood up to clear the table, Alex's hand brushed against my lower back, a touch that was far from accidental. My body tensed, and I felt heat rise to my cheeks. It was subtle, but enough to make my mind race. I glanced at him, and he smiled as if nothing had happened, but I knew what I felt, and it was undeniable. Emily, oblivious to the growing tension between Alex and me, suggested we move to the living room for dessert. I agreed, trying to steady my racing thoughts. I couldn't believe what was happening. Was Alex flirting with me? Was he crossing a line? I couldn't even look at Emily without feeling a pang of guilt, but at the same time, I couldn't ignore the electric charge that seemed to fill the room every time Alex was near me. We sat on the couch with Alex seated on one side of me and Emily on the other. As we chatted, I could feel the tension in the air grow thicker. Alex's leg brushed against mine, and I felt my pulse quicken. Every time he moved, it seemed deliberate, as if he was testing how far he could go. I tried to focus on the conversation, but my thoughts kept drifting to the subtle touches, the lingering glances, and the magnetic pull I felt between us. Then, as Emily got up to grab more wine, Alex leaned in close. I could feel his breath on my neck as he whispered, "You look beautiful tonight." The words sent a shock through me. I knew in that moment that this was no accident, no misunderstanding. He was testing me, pushing boundaries I never thought would be crossed. I felt a swirl of emotions, confusion, excitement, guilt, but most of all, desire. Emily returned, and the moment between Alex and me was interrupted, but the tension remained. I couldn't look at him without feeling like something dangerous and thrilling was unfolding right under Emily's nose. My heart pounded in my chest as I tried to keep the conversation light, but the air was charged with something far more intense than simple small talk. As the night went on, Alex became bolder. His hand would casually brush against mine, his foot nudging mine under the table. I couldn't believe what was happening, and yet I didn't stop it. There was something intoxicating about the forbidden nature of it all, something that drew me in even though I knew it was wrong. Emily, still unaware of the storm brewing between Alex and me, announced that she had to leave. I walked her to the door, feeling a strange mix of relief and anxiety. As I hugged her goodbye, I couldn't help but feel guilty for what had transpired at the dinner table. But when I turned back to Alex, standing there with that same intense look in his eyes, all thoughts of guilt seemed to vanish. With Emily gone, the house felt quieter, more intimate. Alex and I were alone now, and the tension that had been simmering all evening finally reached its boiling point. He stepped closer to me, his eyes never leaving mine. I could feel the heat radiating off of him, and every nerve in my body was on high alert. I knew I should step back, create some distance, but I didn't. Instead, I stayed rooted to the spot, waiting to see what would happen next. What did happen next was something I never could have predicted. Without a word, Alex closed the distance between us, his hand gently cupping my face as he leaned in and kissed me. The kiss was soft at first, but quickly deepened as I responded. Every rational thought fled my mind as I gave into the moment, the tension that had been building all night finally finding its release. When we finally pulled apart, I was breathless, my heart pounding in my chest. Alex looked at me with a mixture of desire and something else, something I couldn't quite name. I knew in that moment that things between us would never be the same. What had started as a simple dinner with a friend had turned into something far more complicated, something that I wasn't sure how to handle. But even as I stood there trying to process everything that had just happened, I couldn't deny that part of me was thrilled by the danger, the excitement, the intensity of it all. I didn't know where things would go from here, but one thing was certain. This was only the beginning. As the night unfolded, I found myself lost in the moment, struggling to reconcile what had just happened with what I knew was right. Alex stood there waiting, his eyes still locked onto mine, filled with a hunger that sent shivers down my spine. I wanted to speak, to break the silence that was now thick between us, but the words wouldn't come. My mind raced with questions, doubts, and emotions I wasn't prepared to face. Alex took a step closer, and I felt his hand brush against mine, sending another jolt of electricity through my body. I had never looked at him this way before. He had always been just my stepson, a part of my family, someone I cared for, but never in this way. But tonight, everything felt different. The boundaries that had once been so clear were now blurred, and I didn't know how to stop it. "I've always felt something for you," Alex finally said, his voice slow and filled with emotion. But tonight I couldn't hold back anymore. His confession hit me like a tidal wave. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I felt a mix of shock, confusion, and, dare I admit, excitement. No one had ever looked at me the way Alex did now, with such intensity, such raw desire. It was overwhelming, and part of me wanted to give in, to see where this new, dangerous path might lead. But another part of me was screaming that this was wrong, that I needed to stop it before things went too far. "Alex, we can't," I whispered, though even as I said the words, I wasn't sure I believed them. My resolve was crumbling, and I could feel myself being pulled deeper into the moment. "But why not?" Alex pressed, his voice soft but insistent. "I know you feel it too. I see it in the way you look at me, the way you responded to me tonight. This isn't just one-sided." His words were like a mirror, reflecting back the feelings I had been trying to deny. I couldn't argue with him, because deep down, I knew he was right. I did feel something powerful and undeniable. And as much as I wanted to push it all away, to pretend like nothing had changed, I knew that wasn't possible anymore. Before I could say anything more, Alex stepped even closer, his hand gently sliding up my arm, sending waves of warmth through my body. His touch was gentle, careful, as if he was waiting for my permission to go further. And in that moment, I realized I wasn't resisting anymore. I had already crossed a line, and now there was no going back. "I don't know what's happening between us," I finally admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. "But it's not supposed to happen. Maybe it's not supposed to," Alex agreed, his gaze never leaving mine. "But that doesn't mean it's wrong. Sometimes the things we want the most are the things we're afraid to admit to ourselves." His words hung in the air between us, heavy with meaning. He was right again. I had been denying my feelings all night, pushing them down, because they didn't fit into the neat, tidy version of my life I had created. But here, with Alex, in the quiet intimacy of the moment, I couldn't hide from them anymore. Without thinking, I reached out and touched his face, my fingers tracing the line of his jaw. He leaned into my touch, his eyes fluttering closed for a brief moment before they opened again, filled with the same intensity as before. And then, before I could stop myself, I closed the distance between us once more, pressing my lips to his inner kiss that felt both inevitable and forbidden. This time, the kiss was different. There was no hesitation, no uncertainty. It was filled with all the desire, the tension, the longing that had been building between us all night. His arms wrapped around me, pulling me closer, and I could feel the heat of his body against mine. Every touch, every kiss sent my mind spinning, and I found myself lost in the sensation of it all. We stumbled back toward the couch, our lips never breaking apart, our hands exploring each other with a desperation that felt almost primal. When we finally collapsed onto the cushions, I felt a rush of adrenaline course through me. I had never felt anything like this before, never experienced this kind of intensity with anyone. It was thrilling and terrifying all at once. As Alex's hands roamed over my body, I felt my breath quicken, my heart racing in my chest. I knew that we were crossing into dangerous territory, that what we were doing could have serious consequences. But in that moment, I didn't care. All I cared about was him, his touch, his kiss, the way he made me feel. For the next hour, the world outside ceased to exist. It was just the two of us, tangled together in a web of desire and passion that I couldn't escape, even if I wanted to. Every kiss, every touch felt like it was pushing me further and further into the unknown, and I found myself willingly surrendering to it. But eventually, reality came crashing back down. As we lay there on the couch, our breathing heavy and our bodies intertwined, I knew that we had crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. I felt a pang of guilt wash over me as I thought about Emily, about my husband, about everything that had just happened. What had we done? How could we ever go back to the way things were? I pulled away from Alex, my mind racing with the weight of what we had just done. He looked at me, concern flashing in his eyes. "Are you okay?" he asked softly, his hand reaching out to touch my arm. I nodded, though I wasn't sure if I was being truthful. I didn't know how to process any of this. I didn't know what was supposed to happen next. I need to think, I whispered, standing up from the couch and smoothing down my clothes. "This is a lot," Alex nodded, his expression understanding, but I could see the hurt in his eyes. He didn't want to stop, didn't want to face the reality of what had just happened any more than I did. "I'll give you space," he said quietly, standing up as well. "But please don't regret this." I looked at him, my heart aching with the weight of his words. I didn't know if I regretted it. All I knew was that my life had just changed in ways I couldn't have imagined, and I wasn't sure where to go from here. As Alex left the room, I sank back down onto the couch, my mind swirling with everything that had happened. I knew things would never be the same between us, and I had no idea how to navigate the complicated mess we had just created. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more exciting, suspenseful stories like this, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. There's so much more to come, and I promise you won't want to miss a single moment of it.